It's going to be ladies first, right, Heather?
All right.
Sure.
And your character is Seven. So
Yeah, I love
Heather
her.
is going to be talking about her sort of like must-see stories for Seven of Nine that she thinks you need to see, that you need to know about before you watch Picard.
Yes, so I have 2 episodes. They are Voyager Season 5, Episode 15, and, Part 1 and 2, Dark Frontier. And then the other one is Season 6, Episode 26, and Season 7, Episode 1, which is the Unimatrix Zero, Part 1 and 2. So they were 2-parters, both of them.
Cool.
Sweet. So, they were really interesting. The reason why they're good is because in the Dark Frontier, basically this episode reveals how 7 of 9 was first assimilated into the Borg collective, and why. They talk about her parents, they talk about what happened, and it gives you a lot of insight into her history and her past. And oh my god, that girl went through some trauma and she's dealing with it. It also goes into the Borg drones and how they have a somewhat interesting, complex relationship with their collective and the Borg Queen. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Let's see. So I liked how they showed her parents. I really liked how they went into depth about why this child was in space and, was taken over to begin with. I love that. I also liked when 7 of 9 met the Borg Queen. I thought that was fantastic. And this gives you a history behind it all. She went through a lot of first in this one. For example, this was her first betrayal. She in this episode, she told Janeway that, there was this connection between them, and then she betrayed them and they came after her. So at the very end, when you see Janeway and her talking, it's they sort of became a family. I'm here for you. I'm going to take care of you. And by the way, go to bed like you're a child. I'm sorry. That was just bothering me. I had to get that out of there. So it was a pretty interesting 2-parter to watch. And then the second one was Unimatrix Zero. And with Unimatrix Zero, what happened was basically the Unimatrix is sort of a dream state that the Borg drones go to be themselves. They're actually, they look like themselves. They act like, humans. They don't act like drones. And this is what happens when they're dreaming. But it doesn't happen to all Borgs. It only happens to 1 in a million Borgs. And during this whole thing, the Borg Queen is trying to get rid of that malfunction. And she's trying to infiltrate them. And 7 of 9 was one of those people, or one of the Borgs that had that recessive mutation that allowed her to be in this dreamlike state or area. And she knew people there. She had relationships with people there. You find out more about her as a person because she spent 18 years growing up in this area with these people. So they're sort of like her friends and her family who know her very well as a person, not as a Borg. So I found that very interesting. And it's just another deep dive into 7 of 9 and who she is and where she came from and what she went through. And again, trauma. You really see the stuff that she goes through dealing with this trauma and trying to still be someone that she doesn't really know how to be. So it's very interesting to see her evolve. And I think the reason why these 2 episodes are important for Picard is because in Picard, 7 of 9, if you guys don't know, not sure if you know, but 7 of 9 had a problem coming back to Picard as 7 of 9 because, as she said at the Star Trek convention in Las Vegas, I don't know if I could play that same character. I'm not that same person. I can't play 7 of 9 like she used to be. And she was having this really internal conflict about coming back as the character. And one of her friends told her, you know, it's 20 years later for Seven of Nine too. Seven of Nine is a whole totally different person, and you have to incorporate that into the character. And it doesn't have to be the same Seven of Nine, because who on this earth is the same person that they were 20 years ago? So I find that whole character development very interesting, to see her going from a child, actually becoming Borg, getting out of the Borg, and then coming to where we see her on Picard and how she gets there. And also I'm really interested with Picard, seeing, you know, what happened in those 20 years, what happened to her, how did she evolve, and who is she now as Seven of Nine compared to her as Seven of Nine 20 years ago. So I'm really interested in seeing what happens.
Yeah, I think these are some really good choices because, you know, in Dark Frontier, you really get the background on Seven of Nine, like you said. You get to find out about her parents, right? Which I always thought that was a little bit weird what her parents were doing. It seemed like it was pretty reckless for them to be chasing after the Borg with a little girl, you know?
Oh yeah, totally.
And I'm a parent myself, okay? So I'm like, that's pretty irresponsible. And I think there is a moment in that episode where Seven says that. She's like, my parents were kind of idiots, you know? When she's kind of like lamenting about the whole situation. Or that might have been a different one where she
no,
talked
she
about
was angry.
Yeah.
She was angry. She was like, you know, they screwed up and they got me to where I'm at now, and I had to go through that because of them. And she was just like, screw them. So she was very, she was angry about it. And another thing that's, you know, you see all these conflicting emotions, and you see all these problems, and you see, you know, what she went through as a past as a Borg compared to what she's going through in the present as trying to be a human being. So it's very interesting to see that conflict.
Yeah, and then in the other episode that you're talking about, Unimatrix Zero, what's interesting there is, in a lot of ways, I'm kind of thinking that the Seven of today is actually very much like her in the dream state. You know what I mean? I think she's kind of changed more into that person, possibly.
You mean she's more human instead of Borg?
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
like I think she's going to be a little bit more like she is in that dream state. You know, like one of the big things that I was talking about actually at the convention with a lot of people, and Jerry Ryan did talk about this. She talked about the change in Seven's speech and how at first when she was kind of directed, hey, you don't talk like that anymore. That was hard for her because she's like, well, then where's Seven? You know what I mean? She's kind of like, that's, for me, that's that way she talks. That's kind of Seven. And I remember what she said was, in her own head, what she decided was, hey, maybe Seven talks this way. She talks more normal because she kind of has to like fit in, you know, like she's kind of forced to, because otherwise she makes people uncomfortable. You know, she said something along those lines.
Right. Like what experiences did Seven of Nine go through on Earth along with other people that made her change into someone who's more human?
Right. Exactly. So yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that. And I think these are really interesting choices that you made.
And one of the things that we've noticed too, Heather, in our previous coverage, Eric and I have been going through the Countdown comic book that's leading up to Picard. And we also did The Road Less Traveled to Picard, where we kind of examined some other things. And based off of what we're seeing in the trailer and in the Countdown comic specifically, we think that, you know, kind of racist ideas and prejudice ideas are going to play into the show. So again, as that survival instinct, Seven might be evolving and becoming more human just because she might be dealing with, you know what I mean, prejudices and racism, you know, because she is a Borg, you know, and we're seeing that with the Romulans specifically in the trailer. It looks like there's secluded areas where certain people are not supposed to be. So that might be part of her survival instinct, because as a Borg, you know, unless she's on a specifically a Borg colony and even dealing with other people, you know, they're going to have a lot of misfeel, you know, kind of not just fear, but also hatred for the Borg, you know, because of all the things that the Borg have done.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's going to play into Picard for sure. I think that there's going to be some Borg backlash, if you will, you know, where people are suspicious of other people that were Borg. And it seems to me that the state of the Borg, obviously, in the wake of the last episode of Voyager, they're pretty much like devastated. They're kind of like refugees, and they're kind of just like in a very kind of sad state, to the point that the Romulans, it appears, are able to experiment on them and are exploiting them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like your choices. Those are good choices. Definitely tells you a lot about Seven's background, and I think possibly what she might be like in the new show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be awesome.
Right on. Well, I was thinking I would go next, unless you had any more, Heather.
No. I just want to say, am I allowed to give minor spoilers?
Oh, we'd have to have that discussion,
right? Because you're
listened,
thinking what I'm thinking.
Because I listened to your podcast, okay, and you guys did do some spoilers, okay.
Minor spoilers.
Dave, if you're not aware, one of her co-hosts, actually already saw the first 3 episodes of Picard.
Yep.
Oh.
So Heather has inside knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. Heather has not like speculation or rumor. She has inside knowledge.
I made him tell me all the details. I'm like, you have to spill all the beans.
Heather, you were asking like everything. And it's really funny because they actually had Section 31 come in and edit their show.
Yeah.
Because she was giving away everything.
Yep.
So,
they censored us.
Yeah, Section 31 actually came in and censored them because they were giving away like everything. I'm surprised you didn't get sniped, Heather. I'm not surprised just to take you out.
He's in the corner.
But she was asking everything.
Now.
So Heather like knows everything basically that's in the first 3 episodes. So as we speculate, because Dave and I have some theories, okay? And also there were some minor spoilers that got out that Section 31 didn't cover. Right. So there were some that I'm aware of too now. And Dave I don't think is.
And before we continue with that, I just want to say, am I allowed to give this minor spoiler real quick?
Well, let's see what you got.
Okay.
Be careful, though.
So spoiler warning, anyone watching the show right now.
It's very minor.
Spoiler warning, but minor. Heather says it's
very minor. Okay. So 7 of 9 does not appear in the first 3 episodes. Super minor. I told you it was a minor spoiler.
But that is relevant, and it is a little bit of a cause for concern, because one of the concerns that people have is, how are the legacy characters going to be treated? Are they going to be important to the story, or are they going to be glorified cameos? You know what I mean?
And also, Picard is only 10 episodes, so seeing 3 episodes, that's 30% of it. Yeah,
that's a little bit concerning, right? Because I personally want to see the legacy characters treated right, and I want them to be relevant to the story. And if they're cameos, which I don't think 7's going to be a cameo. I think Riker and Troy will be cameos.
Probably.
But I think 7 is relevant to the story.
Riker and Troy, I want to see their kids.
Yeah, I heard you say that. You want to see the kid.
I want to see the kids.
We do hear one of the kids.
Yes, we heard him.
Hey, Picard's here, whatever, right? She's in the trailer.
I want to see him.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. That'll definitely be interesting to see Riker and Troy as kids. But when it comes to spoilers, Heather, I've always thought of myself as someone that is kind of into spoilers. You're really into spoilers. I mean, she was asking everything. She was like, "What happens here? What happens there? What happens there?"
I wanted to know.
So we need to be careful. We need to be careful.
It was worse when we weren't recording too.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, Section 31 came in and. They were after you guys, so
yes, they didn't like me very much. I have one of them standing in the corner of my bedroom watching me while I sleep.
Yeah, I can see why now. I can definitely see why.
He made friends with the temporal police that's also watching me. They're both huddled in the corner.
But just because